Welcome to the Global Intelligence Weekly Wrap-Up for the week ending September 20th, 2024. Your exclusive source for cutting-edge analysis on the world's most pressing intelligence, national security, and counterterrorism developments. In this episode, Neil Bisson, retired intelligence officer with over 2 decades of expertise, dives deep into the critical events shaping the global stage. From espionage and foreign influence to the emerging threats of global terrorism, Neil delivers expert insights that outclass the headlines, giving you access to the intelligence behind the news. Don't miss an episode. Subscribe on Spotify, YouTube, or Apple Podcasts. You can even ask your smart speaker to play Global Intelligence Weekly Wrap-Up. And if today's briefing gives you something to think about, drop a comment, leave us a rating, and share it with those in your network who need to stay informed. Now, let's dive into the critical stories from this week. Get ready for all the key insights you won't want to miss.
Welcome back, everyone, to this week's episode of Global Intelligence Weekly Wrap-Up. This week has been a busy one in the world of intelligence, espionage, and terrorism. From exploding Hezbollah pagers to sexual harassment claims that are being uncovered and dealt with in the CIA and CSIS. There's a lot to cover, so let's get into it. The story that rocked the international intelligence and national security community this week revolved around the multiple attacks that occurred in Lebanon over a 2-day period, targeting communication devices used by terrorist organization known as Hezbollah. I will be covering a few different articles on this story, providing a semblance of a timeline and in order to give more of a comprehensive analysis of the situation. I had the opportunity to speak with both the Canadian Broadcasting Company and CTV News about this topic, and will leave links to the interviews that I have access to in the show notes. Our first story discusses the attacks that occurred on Tuesday, entitled "Hundreds of Hezbollah Members Wounded When Pagers Explode in Lebanon." This article from Al Jazeera highlights what is being called the biggest security breach Hezbollah has experienced in nearly a year of hostilities with Israel. According to the reports, hundreds of Hezbollah members across Lebanon were seriously wounded or killed when the pagers they used for communications exploded. Among the injured is Iran's ambassador to Lebanon. A Hezbollah official, speaking anonymously, stated that this coordinated attack, likely resulting from a hacking incident, is a severe blow to Hezbollah's internal security systems. From an intelligence perspective, this breach showcases the vulnerabilities even experienced militant groups face when their communications infrastructure is compromised. For some time, Hezbollah has relied on alternative communication methods such as pagers to avoid Israeli interception of their communication and tracking their whereabouts. However, this event shows how even supposedly secure systems can be infiltrated. The explosions of these devices represent a shift in the technological warfare between Israel and Hezbollah, a war fought not only on the battlefield, but in cyberspace as well. This isn't Hezbollah's first experience with compromised communications. In fact, Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah had recently urged fighters to stop using smartphones because Israel has advanced technology capable of intercepting and infiltrating their systems. Now, with the breach of their pager network, it's clear that Hezbollah is being attacked through multiple layers of their infrastructure. Comparing this breach to past incidences, such as Israel's hacking operation against Hamas, it's evidence that technology plays a crucial role in modern warfare. In 2018, Israel used cyber attacks to disrupt Hamas communications in Gaza, and now we're witnessing a similar approach against Hezbollah in Lebanon. Al Jazeera's Zinia Koder reported that the attack appeared to have been coordinated in an effort to disable Hezbollah's communication system by remotely detonating these devices. Political analyst Elijah Manier suggests that a third party might have been involved, as this is not a new communication system for Hezbollah, which has been using pagers for years. These devices would have had to been tampered with before being distributed, indicating either infiltration or sabotage on a larger scale. From my professional perspective, this incident highlights how modern technology is shaping this zone of conflict. Hezbollah's reliance on older technology like pagers was likely an attempt to outmaneuver Israel's advanced capabilities, but the breach shows how even the oldest communication system can be vulnerable to attack. The psychological impact on Hezbollah will be severe, as trust in the communication security is now shattered. The explosion of pagers across Lebanon was a major development in the ongoing hostilities between Hezbollah and Israel. It not only represents a tactical victory for Israel, but also emphasizes the importance of securing communication systems in modern warfare. Moving forward, we can expect Hezbollah to revise their communication strategies and increase their operational security in response to this breach. Our second story continues its focus on Lebanon in the attacks and is entitled, Hezbollah blames Israel after pager explosions kill 9 and injure thousands in Lebanon. On Tuesday, Lebanon witnessed an unprecedented event. Hundreds of pagers worn by Hezbollah members for secure communication simultaneously exploded across the country. The blast tragically claimed the lives of 9 people, including a child, and injured thousands, with 200 people in critical condition. Hezbollah has laid the blame squarely on Israel, calling the explosions a form of criminal aggression and vowing retaliation. Meanwhile, the Israeli military, at that time, refrained from commenting on the specific incident. But the timing is, of course, highly suspect, given the recent escalations along the Israel-Lebanon border. From an intelligence perspective, the method of attack is striking. These pagers were used specifically to avoid tracking and interception via more modern communication methods like cell phones. For Israel to allegedly target these devices so effectively, it suggests a high level of cyber warfare capability and precise knowledge of Hezbollah's communication networks. This is a serious blow to Hezbollah's operational capacity and morale. This attack comes in the context of heightened tensions between Israel and Hezbollah, fueled by Hezbollah's support for Hamas in the ongoing Israeli-Gaza conflict. Since October, cross-border skirmishes have been almost daily. Israel's Security Cabinet recently declared the neutralizing of Hezbollah as a war goal, underscoring the significance of this conflict for both sides. This isn't the first time we've seen high-stakes intelligence and military operations between Israel and Hezbollah. However, using pages as a medium for such a devastating attack is new and chilling in its effectiveness. It reminds us of the evolving nature of warfare and intelligence, where no form of communication is truly safe. In analyzing this incident, experts have pointed out the likelihood that Mossad and/or another intelligence agency has been behind the attack. As one former British Army munitions expert told the BBC, it's likely the pagers were rigged with military-grade explosives, triggered by a remote signal. Nicholas Blandford, a senior fellow at the Atlantic Council, remarked that this operation likely rendered hundreds, if not thousands, of Hezbollah fighters combat ineffective. The psychological impact of such an event cannot be underestimated. Hezbollah's leadership will be under enormous pressure to retaliate. The explosion of Hezbollah's pagers network demonstrates how advanced cyber warfare and covert operations have become in the modern age. It's not just about bombs and bullets anymore. Information warfare is very much at the forefront of today's conflicts. Moving forward, we can expect Hezbollah to retaliate in some form, which will likely further escalate the already fragile situation in Lebanon and across the broader region. These developments highlight the ever-present risks and volatile areas where intelligence operations, military conflict, and terrorism intersect. In our next story, we're covering an article entitled, Israel Detonates Hezbollah Walkie-Talkies a Day After Pager Attack. As we have already covered, on Tuesday, thousands of pager devices used by Hezbollah were detonated, but this was followed by the destruction of two-way radios on Wednesday. These booby-trapped communication devices were embedded in Hezbollah's emergency system, set to be used during a potential war with Israel. According to the numbers provided in this article, the attacks resulted in 14 deaths and 450 injuries in the second wave alone. This clandestine operation was a severe blow to Hezbollah's military command and control system. The Israeli intelligence service's ability to infiltrate Hezbollah's ranks and sabotage its emergency communication network is a stark indication of Israel's deep penetration into the group's operation. From an operational perspective, this operation demonstrates a high level of sophistication and strategic thinking employed by Israeli services. Sabotaging communication devices shows not only technical expertise, but also a clear psychological aim, instilling fear and paranoia within Hezbollah's ranks. By targeting their military communication system, Israel aims to weaken Hezbollah's ability to respond effectively in future conflicts, pushing the group into a defensive position. This attack also highlights a critical point: Hezbollah's reliance on older communication technologies such as pagers and walkie-talkie. This data technology, thought to be secure in a war scenario, was precisely what Israel used to their advantage. It's a reminder of how modern intelligence operations are about exploiting weaknesses wherever they are found, even in tools long considered obsolete. These operations have the added effect of forcing Hezbollah's leadership to reconsider their strategy regarding ongoing hostilities with Israel. Sources suggest that Israel's goal is not only to degrade Hezbollah's military capabilities, but to push the group into reassessing its relationship with Hamas and potentially seeking a separate peace agreement. In the larger context of Israel-Hezbollah tensions, this is an isolated incident. This latest attack comes amid rising hostilities along the Lebanon-Israel border with Hezbollah engaging in large proxy battle on behalf of Iranian interests. Israeli defense leaders such as Defense Minister Yoav Gallant are signaling a shift in focus from Gaza to the northern border, indicating that Lebanon could become a major threat in a theater of conflict. This follows a long-standing history of intelligence warfare between Israel and Hezbollah, dating back to the 2006 Lebanon War and beyond. For Israel, maintaining intelligence superiority has always been a cornerstone of its strategy against terrorist organizations like Hezbollah, and this operation reinforces that dynamic. Israeli officials have been quick to frame this operation as part of a broader effort to deter Hezbollah and strengthen security along Israel's northern border. IDF Chief of Staff General Herzi Halevi stated that the attack marks a new phase in Israel's northern defense strategy, with plans to ramp up operations if necessary. U.S. officials, including Secretary of State Anthony Blinken, have distanced themselves from these operations, emphasizing that the U.S. was not involved and calling for calm to avoid further escalation. However, as tensions grow, the risk of further regional conflict remains, and the U.S. and other allies of Israel will likely have to navigate a complex diplomatic landscape as the situation develops. This two-wave attack on Hezbollah's communication represents a significant intelligence action for Israel and a major disruption of Hezbollah's military capabilities. It also sends a clear message to Hezbollah leadership about the vulnerability of their operations, potentially reshaping the group's decision-making going forward. The regional ramifications of these actions remain to be seen, but it's clear that the battle for intelligence dominance in Lebanon is far from over. Our next story and its resulting analysis will examine Israel's long history of deadly covert operation. The article is entitled, Hezbollah Pagers Explode. Has Israel carried out such attacks before? Let's break down how the attack on Hezbollah's communication devices fits into the broader narrative of intelligence warfare and the Israeli strategy. The targeting of communication devices used by Hezbollah operatives in Lebanon resulted in a highly coordinated attack of exploding pagers and portable radios. These blasts killed dozens of people, including an 8-year-old girl, and injured nearly thousands of others. The attack has been attributed to, but not confirmed by, Israel's Mossad and military, who reportedly planted explosives in these communication devices used by Hezbollah to avoid mobile phone tracking. Though Israel has never confirmed or denied the accusations, Prime Minister Netanyahu is said to have instructed officials to remain silent on the matter. The Iranian ambassador to Lebanon, also among the injured, adds an international dimension to this tense situation. While this method and scale of attack is unprecedented, Israel's use of covert assassinations and sabotage tactics stretches back decades. From parcel bombs in the 1950s to sticky bombs on cars, Israel has a well-documented history of eliminating opponents with surgical precision. These attacks are often carried out without public acknowledgement, allowing Israel plausible deniability. To understand the significance of this latest operation, it's essential to look at Israel's long history of eliminating enemies. Take, for instance, the 2020 assassination of Iranian nuclear scientist Mohsen Fakhrizadeh, who was killed using a satellite-guided machine gun, or the killing of Hamas leader Yahya Ashar in 1996, where explosives were hidden inside a mobile phone. In this latest case, Hezbollah has shifted to using pagers to avoid Israeli cyber attacks on mobile phones. But by rigging these devices with explosives, Mossad and the Israeli military appear to have found a new way to disrupt Hezbollah's communications while inflicting maximum damage on its opponents. What makes this situation particularly dangerous is the potential for escalation. Hezbollah has vowed retaliation for what it describes as mass murder, with the tensions already running high in the region due to the ongoing Israeli-Gaza conflict. Any further provocations will likely trigger a broader confrontation between Israel and Hezbollah. Experts believe that Israel's goal here is not just to weaken Hezbollah, but also to gather intelligence on Hezbollah operatives who may have been exposed during the chaos in the hospitals following the explosions. The dual nature of this operation, both destructive and intelligence gathering, highlights the sophistication of the Israeli covert activities. One former Israeli intelligence official, speaking under condition of anonymity, suggests that this operation demonstrates the length to which Israel is willing to go in its struggle against Iranian influence in the region. Hezbollah, which is backed by Iran, remains a central player in this proxy conflict. The article also mentions how Western intelligence agencies have long cooperated with Israel in such missions, including the infamous Stuxnet virus that targeted Iranian nuclear centrifuges in 2010. This attack on Hezbollah's pagers shows the evolving nature of modern warfare. Cyber attacks, espionage, and covert sabotage are increasingly shaping the battlefield, and Israel continues to play a leading role in the shadowy world. What happens next? I had the opportunity to discuss this very question on both CTV and CBC News. The sophistication in which this operation was conducted left Hezbollah and any Hezbollah operatives wondering how and when they would be targeted next. For Canada and the United States, who have large populations of diaspora from Lebanon, this could trigger protest and potentially result in attacks being perpetrated by groups or individuals who associate with the goals of Hezbollah or other terrorist organizations opposing Israel and the continued conflict in Gaza. Additionally, a large number of Canadians and Americans who maintain dual citizenship in Lebanon may seek to re-enter North America to escape further potential violence. North America and Europe have been used by terrorist organizations like Hezbollah as platforms to help fund terrorist groups like Hamas and Hezbollah. For more insights into how these groups fund their terrorist activities using cryptocurrency, check out my YouTube video on terrorism and cryptocurrency. I'll leave a link in the show notes. We shift our focus away from Lebanon and Israel and turn our attention to Canada, where the next stage of the inquiry into foreign interference and its implications for upcoming elections began Monday. The article we'll be discussing is titled Foreign Interference Inquiry Turns Focus to Present and Future of Threats. The inquiry, led by Justice Marie-Josée Hogue, will shift focus to understanding what foreign interference tactics hostile states are likely to employ in future Canadian elections. Instead of dwelling on the past interference in the 2019 and 2021 elections, this stage will examine the current capabilities of Canada's government agencies to combat such threats and how those capabilities have evolved. From an intelligence perspective, this is crucial. Foreign states like China, Russia, India, and Iran have been accused of conducting influence operation on Canadian soil. These operations aim to meddle in our democratic processes, often with the object of shifting policy in favor of their foreign regimes. The fact that the inquiry is focusing on the future highlights a growing concern that foreign interference will not only persist but likely increase as hostile nations seek to hone their techniques and adapt to countermeasures. This inquiry was launched after a report surfaced in 2022 alleging foreign interference in Canada's last two federal elections. While Justice Hogue confirmed that the overall integrity of the elections remained intact, her findings pointed to concerning trends. In her preliminary report, Hogue noted that a handful of political candidates and staffers appear to be willing to engage in foreign interference activities, particularly with China. The report detailed financial support from proxies of foreign governments and efforts by China to manipulate the Liberal nomination in 2019. While China has emerged as the primary threat actor, other countries are also believed to be engaging in influence operations. The shift in the inquiry focuses to the present and future and demonstrates a significant change in how Canada is approaching the issue, moving beyond what's already happened to actively work on preventing future threats. Justice Hogue emphasized that while the inquiry will delve deeper into issues raised in the first round, it will not name specific political actors involved in foreign interference schemes. Instead, the focus is strengthening our institutions to combat interference more effectively. From my perspective, the shift is an essential step in maintaining the needed focus on what has become a major concern for Canada's sovereignty. Every Western nation and their intelligence agencies are facing this challenge of threats from foreign, enemy, and hostile states that interfere with their political institutions and democracy. However, as Justice Hogue mentioned, the classified nature of the evidence concerning foreign interference makes it difficult to reveal the full extent of foreign involvement. This inquiry presents an opportunity to bolster Canada's national security apparatus and ensure that foreign actors are not able to manipulate our democratic processes. This inquiry marks an important step in Canada's efforts to tackle foreign interference. By focusing on the present and future, we can better protect our integrity of upcoming elections. As foreign interference continues to evolve, it's crucial for intelligence agencies, government bodies, and the public to remain vigilant. Looking ahead, we can expect even more sophisticated tactics from hostile nations. Canada's ability to counter these threats will depend on the strength of our national security measures and the collaboration between intelligence agencies and political bodies. I sincerely hope that the Canadian political parties and their leaders don't stray from the current path to ensure a more foreign influence resilient election process down the road by calling for a snap election in the near future. The inquiry into foreign interference and the decisions that come from it strengthen our national security needs to be implemented to maintain Canada's sovereignty and Canadians' confidence in the process. The inquiry should be a warning to all witting and semi-witting politicians at every level of government that your time is up, and once you've been fully identified, your political careers will be over. Sticking with national security news in Canada, on Thursday, the Canadian government published its first document on intelligence priorities. This discussion and its analysis deal with an article titled, "Canada Gives First Ever Peek into Priorities of Intelligence Work." It explores this new level of transparency and the implications for national security. Let's unpack what this means and why it matters. The newly released intelligence document outlines several priorities, with topics ranging from climate change to foreign interference, espionage, and violent extremism. It's noteworthy that climate change and food security are now classified as critical national security issues alongside more traditional threats like terrorism and Arctic sovereignty. This prioritization reflects the evolving nature of national security, where non-traditional threats such as environmental instability pose risks to global health, food supplies, and geographical stability. These are no fringe concerns, but essential issues that impact not just Canadians, but our partners worldwide. One key point here is that while Ottawa has been under pressure to disclose its intelligence priorities, especially considering the ongoing foreign interference scandals, the document doesn't quite spell out which of these priorities take precedent. This omission will likely create ambiguity around how resources are allocated, which is a major consideration by all members of the Canadian intelligence community. This publication comes at a critical time. Canada has been in the spotlight due to multiple allegations of foreign interference in its elections, as well as the broader issue of espionage targeting Canadian institutions, not to mention the recent concerns over terrorism plots and security screening issues. For years, countries like the US have published broad overviews of intelligence priorities, even though the specifics remain classified. This is Canada's first attempt to do so. In terms of a broader context, the world is changing fast. Climate change is becoming a bigger factor in security assessments globally. For instance, intelligence communities worldwide are now studying how shifts in climate can trigger food shortages, destabilize governments, or even lead to mass migration, all of which can weaken national security. The article quotes Stephanie Carvin, a national security expert from Carleton University, who suggests that this transparency is a step in the right direction, but it falls short of offering detailed insight into how these priorities rank. Carvin notes that everything can be a top priority, which leaves a question mark around how Canada's intelligence and law enforcement organizations plan to differentiate between what's most pressing. From my perspective, this release demonstrates an attempt to foster public trust in Canada's intelligence agencies, but it also shows there is potential disconnect between priorities that many Canadians feel are more pressing, including issues surrounding terrorist-affiliated groups and individuals acquiring access to Canada. The Canadian intelligence community and national law enforcement need to demonstrate a higher level of flexibility regarding being proactive to national security impending threats. The threat landscape is constantly changing, and the Canadian government must strike a delicate balance between transparency and operational security. By providing insight into what priorities our government agencies are, it simultaneously provides a roadmap to hostile and enemy state and non-actors as to where limited resources are being focused. Too much disclosure could compromise sensitive operations, but too little can erode public confidence. The Canadian government has made an unprecedented move by releasing its intelligence priorities to the public. This document not only addresses traditional threats like espionage and terrorism, but also incorporates global concerns such as climate change and food security. While this step toward transparency is a positive one, questions remain regarding the hierarchy of the need to pivot on these priorities. Looking forward, we can expect more dialogue about how to address complex, multidimensional threats to national security. The world of intelligence is evolving, and it's crucial to stay informed as these developments unfold. I will leave a link to the document in the show notes. Unfortunately, not everything is positive in the world of North American intelligence. The two next stories and their analysis will deal with some disturbing issues surrounding sexual assault and harassment in the Central Intelligence Agency and the Canadian Security Intelligence Service. Some listeners may find this content disturbing. I'll start with an article that came out this week entitled, "Documents Show Dozens of Harassment Violent Cases at CSIS. It Deemed Only 8 Founded." This story exposes troubling allegations of workplace harassment and sexual assault within the Canadian Security Intelligence Service, or CSIS, and raises questions about how these issues are being handled internally. The article reveals that between 2021 and 2022, 49 cases of workplace harassment and violence were reported at CSIS. Only 8 were deemed founded. The cases range from bullying and harassment to sexual assault, with several involving senior officers abusing their power. The document includes a letter from former CSIS Director David Vigneault to Public Safety Minister Dominic LeBlanc, and paint a picture of an organization grappling with internal turmoil and a lack of accountability. From an intelligence perspective, this situation is concerning. CSIS is tasked with safeguarding Canada's national security, yet it appears to be struggling with serious internal issues that compromises the safety and well-being of its employees. Harassment and sexual violence are not just workplace issues. They threaten the integrity and morale of an organization, intelligence or otherwise. These issues impact an intelligence organization's ability to function effectively, which in turn impacts the safety of Canada and Canadians. This isn't the first time allegations of misconduct have surfaced within intelligence agencies. Similar issues have emerged globally, from the FBI to MI6, where power dynamics and secrecy can enable toxic behavior to go unchecked. In CSIS's case, the article highlights how complaints of sexual harassment and assault have been slow to resolve. Of the 49 occurrences, 20 are still ongoing, and several have been tied up in legal processes for years. This raises questions about how effectively CSIS is addressing these cases and whether there's a culture of silence that allows perpetrators to avoid accountability. Matt Malone, a law professor specializing in workplace investigations, reviewed the documents and noted that they indicate system-wide problems with leadership. He emphasized that while there is a debate over whether the work environment is toxic, there's clear evidence of leadership failures in handling harassment and misconduct cases. As a retired intelligence officer from CSIS, I find this particularly alarming. Effective leadership is paramount in any intelligence organization where trust, professionalism, and accountability are all crucial. If CSIS leadership is perceived as unwilling or unable to address serious misconduct, it not only changes and damages internal morale, but could also impact Canada's broader national security posture. The article reveals a deeply concerning pattern of harassment and violence within CSIS. The slow resolution of cases, lack of transparency, and troubling leadership failures suggest that Canada's top intelligence agencies need urgent reform. Looking forward, it's critical that CSIS takes immediate steps to address these issues and restore trust within the organization. Only then can more focus be given to its primary mission of protecting Canada from national security threats. Our final story involves the conviction of a sexual predator within the Central Intelligence Agency. We're looking at a story that hit the news on Thursday afternoon entitled CIA Officer Who Sexually Assaulted Dozens of Women Given a 30-Year Sentence. The story details the sentencing of Brian Jeffrey Raymond, a longtime CIA officer who was found guilty of drugging and sexually assaulting dozens of women while stationed in multiple countries around the world. Over the course of his career, Raymond meticulously documented his assaults through hundreds of photos, and his actions have been described as one of the most egregious misconduct cases in CIA history. This case is significant for several reasons. First, Raymond's assault spanned several countries, including Mexico and Peru, showing how his position and intelligence allowed him to carry out these horrific acts across borders. The calculated nature of his crimes, luring victims through dating apps, drugging them, and documenting their assaults, reveals a pattern that went unchecked for too long. How does someone manage to conduct such activities over a span of 14 years without being detected? Intelligence agencies are designed to prevent threats, but what happens when the threat is within? Raymond's case shows a clear breakdown in accountability and internal oversight. This case also has broader implications for national security. The misconduct of someone in Raymond's position doesn't just harm individuals, it undermines the credibility and trust of the agency itself. Sexual misconduct of this magnitude tarnishes the reputation of the intelligence community and brings into question the CIA's ability to properly vet and monitor its personnel, with sexual violence cases against the CIA officers also emerging. It points to a larger, systemic issue that the agency has historically failed to address. Unfortunately, cases of misconduct in intelligence agencies aren't new. However, the classified nature of much of the CIA's and other intelligence organizations' operations has often shielded them from public scrutiny. This has, at times, allowed toxic behavior to go unaddressed for extended periods. The recent 648-page internal watchdog report cited in the article highlights this very problem: systemic shortcomings in handling complaints of sexual misconduct. This isn't the first time intelligence agencies have been embroiled in such scandals. Over the decade, in the courtroom, U.S. Senior Judge Colleen Kolar-Cotelli called Raymond a sexual predator and sentenced him to the full 30 years requested by prosecutors. In addition, Lisa Mundy, author of Sisterhood, The Secret History of Women in the CIA, emphasized how a male-dominated culture within the agency has long enabled such misconduct. She points out that for decades, men at the top had free rein. As for my personal perspective, this case exposes a glaring need for reform within intelligence agencies, particularly when it comes to internal accountability and employee oversight. While intelligence officers are entrusted with sensitive and powerful tools, they must also come with robust mechanisms to identify and prevent abuses of power. And the higher up anyone climbs within an organization, the more scrutiny needs to be placed upon them to ensure that they are not abusing their position by bullying or harassing others who report to them. The sentencing of Brian Jeffrey Raymond is a grim reminder of the potential for abuse within institutions like the CIA. It underscores the need for serious reforms and increased transparency in handling sexual misconduct allegations, especially in high-security environments. Going forward, it will be essential for the agency to rebuild trust and ensure that its employees are held accountable at every level. I would like to remind the audience and the Gicken Network, the actions of individuals within an organization is not a reflection of the organization itself, and this goes for the intelligence community as well. Unfortunately, there will always be individuals who abuse their positions and authority, and it is up to these organizations to deal with their actions in a swift and just manner. I truly hope that the issues that have been identified as happening within the CIA and CSIS are handled quickly and with consideration to how trust both within this organization and from the countries that rely on these organizations for their safety and security are affected by these concerns. Well, it's been another hectic week in the world of global intelligence, and I appreciate you being here to get a better appreciation of what these stories mean and how they affect your lives. I hope you join me again next week for more insights into the shadowy world of intelligence. Until then, stay curious, stay informed, and stay safe.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of Global Intelligence Weekly Wrap-Up. Bringing you expert analysis on the intelligence issues shaping our world takes dedication, and we hope today's insights left you informed and inspired. If you enjoyed this episode, your support can help us keep going strong. Whether it's a one-time tip or ongoing contribution, head over to buymeacoffee.com/GKN or visit buzzsprout.com/2336717/support. Your backing fuels the expert perspectives you rely on. Before you go, don't forget to like, comment, and share this podcast with your network. Every bit of engagement helps us grow and reach more listeners like you who care about real-world intelligence. Make sure you're subscribed on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or simply ask your smart speaker to play Global Intelligence Weekly Wrap-Up. Stay ahead of the stories that matter. We appreciate your continued support, and we'll be back next week with more critical insights.